Hi and welcome to Hedgehog Hollow. Today I want to show you how to assemble an Art Impressions pop card. Now I bought this set and thought it was so much fun, however it probably took me a couple of hours to assemble my first one. This is the card I'm going to show you how to create on the inside. So I'm going to show you how to avoid some of the mistakes I made and how to assemble it right first time with some of the tips and tools that made it really simple. So let's get started on assembling our pop-up. First of all, I'd like to run through the supplies that you're going to need to be able to assemble one of these pop cards. Now there's lots of lessons I learned along the way, so there's a few things I can show you that I got wrong on my first card, which is my sample here. So first of all, I'm going to show you how not to have your panda sticking out the edge here. And he opens up, you can see here, we have this lovely panda. And he is in 3 sections. Let me show you from a side so you can see the nice amount of depth that you get in there as well. I'm not going to show you how to stamp the front. This is just a waffle flower stamp, which I will link up in the blog post that's attached to this video. You may need to look in this bottom right hand corner down here for a little downward arrow to click, which will open the full description of the video, and there'll be a clickable link in there. And I inked him up with an ombre pad, and this is the wild cherry from My Favourite Things, and I cut it out using some lacy layers dies just to decorate the front for my sample, but you could use anything you liked. Because mainly the thing we want to look at is what's on the inside and how to build this beautiful panda. So I'm not going to show you the colouring in today because that's quite a time consuming bit. What I am going to show you is how to assemble a pop card, because I probably spent a good hour or maybe even 2 hours trying to work out how to assemble him when I first stamped it all out. So I'm going to be needing some post-it tape or micropore tape depending what you have. You'll need, I used some glue dots as well as some strong tape adhesive. Definitely a pair of tweezers. These are my favourite tweezers. I use these for all my paper crafting. I'll link these up for you as well. You'll need a craft knife. And then when you buy the stamp set, now you buy it and you get in the packet, so this is how he comes. I just cut mine in half so it fitted in my envelope. You get the stamps, the dies, and it says the instructions included. Now the instructions I think are a little bit vague. I couldn't work out how to make it just from these instructions. And what they don't tell you anywhere when you buy it is you also need to buy a pop card template. You also need to buy this piece here. Now it's quite inexpensive. I think it's $4, $5, $6, something around that mark. But unless you have this, you cannot assemble the pop card. So I will link this up for you too. But if you're going to buy one of these sets and there's elephants and all sorts of different things, you do need this template. You only need one, you only have to buy it once, but you will need it to assemble any of the characters. So I have stamped out my panda onto some Nina Whisper White here. And I'm not going to colour him in, as I said, for today. But we are going to cut him out. So you will need to stamp out the following. This is our card base, which I'm just going to pop to the side. So you will need to stamp out his lower half and cut it out. And you'll see in the dies, there's these slits, and these slits correspond to where they will go in the template. So I'm going to stick this down just with a piece of post-it tape when I'm happy it's reasonably well centered. Like so. You'll need to do his top half. Like so. You will need to have him carrying something. If you don't have him carrying something, then you will have problems because your template won't fit through. So he does need to carry the cupcake. And finally, you need the candle to hide all of your tabs. So again, I'm going to stick that down. You will also need your pop card die template. So we'll grab this here. And I'll just pop some tape on that. And then you can choose whether you want him to have a hat or not. And there's balloons, there's a heart-shaped balloon. You can have the heart shape coming out of the cupcake rather than the candle. So if you want to do it as an I love you card, you can do that too. So I'm going to, for now, just do his hat. I'm going to run this through the Big Shot and then we can start assembly. So I've run this through my Big Shot with my new glittery pads, and I'm a little bit stingy, so I've started with just using one on the top because it looks pretty and it reminds me that I don't want to cut on this surface too. So I will link those up. You can get them in lots of pretty colours. We have all of our pieces nicely cut out for us, so we can pop all of these out now. And I'm just going to pop these out from the reverse and I'll put them back on my magnetic sheet later. This one you might need to just poke through and you can just use the ends of your tweezers. There we go. So these are all the components we're going to need. Now the first thing we want to do is to take our base here and we're going to fold it on these two perforated lines, like this. So this is what it will look like this. And I'll do you one from above there too. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to feed on our bottom, which you'll see has the longest of the slits. Now I would recommend either your craft knife or your tweezers. We use the tweezers to pull it through, but I tend to stick my craft knife through just to really make sure those slits are nice and wide. So one side here and the other side here. And we're just going to keep pulling this through until he gets to the back. So I'm not quite sure what happened there. We seem to lose our sound. So I've sped this up slightly so I can voice it over for you. You can see that it was quite tough to get the bottom part of the panda over those grooves. So what I'm doing is I'm folding in those grooves and pulling it all the way through to the back groove. And you'll see that by folding it over, it makes it much, much easier. Now you want to do that on both sides as I'm doing here. And you're putting it right through to the back. Now once you've pulled it right through to the back, you want to open up the first little tab. And then we're going to grab the first piece of the top of the panda and we're going to slide that through to meet that tab. I'm just opening up by wiggling my craft knife through so it's a little bit easier to get it through those slots. And you want to put your craft knife in the direction that you're going to feed those arrows through. So again, I'm putting that on and I'm going to bat it up against that first tab that we just opened. And that again is on both sides. Once I've done that, I'm opening up the front tab. So all you'll have showing on either side is just the arrows. And your tweezers are there to help you. They'll really help you thread that through and also pull it from the other side. And they'll be particularly helpful when you get through to the top piece, which is the cupcake, which we'll get to in a moment. So now I have those through, I have both of my tabs open and we have a nice depth to the top and the bottom of our panda bear. Now we're going to do our cupcake and there's 3 tabs in the cupcake. The 2 parallel ones you want to open up with your craft knife and the bottom one you want to open up the craft knife but from the other side. We're going to poke our candle through and before I poke it through I'm going to put a piece of the tear tape actually on the candle. We'll poke it through and what we're going to do is we're going to add a glue dot to stick down that tab on the reverse side. And don't yet stick down your candle. Make sure that tab's not in the way of your 2 parallel slits and then thread your cupcake onto those 2 arrows. Now you really will need a pair of tweezers for this and I've linked up in the blog post the pair of tweezers that I used as they've got a particularly long nose to them. Once we've pulled those through and you can see here I'm just giving them a nice good tug with my tweezers to make sure they're all the way through. We're going to bend them over and then we're going to stick down our candle to seal them in so that our card can't come apart when it gets to our recipient. And now we have that lovely finished 3D panda holding his cupcake with a candle. So you want to squish it down to the right side so that you don't have it sticking out of your card like mine was. This is half a piece of 8.5 by 11 that I've just scored and folded in half. And you're going to want to make 2 cut marks using your craft knife. So the first one is 2 inches up and you want it to go in ½ inch. Then you're going to go up a further inch and you're going to cut another ½ inch slit. So it's 2 inches from the bottom, ½ inch slit. then you're going to have another inch and another 1/2 inch slit on top of that. Now that piece we've just cut through, you're going to invert and fold on the inside like that. So you can see you've got that nice little pop-up element to put your panda onto. Now you're going to take a 1/2 inch strip of cardstock and you're going to stick it to that left-hand side of the cutout that we just did. And I'm going to use just a piece of my tear tape because it's nice and strong to stick that down, as that's what's going to make our panda pop up. Now we're going to take our panda and work out where he goes. He's folded to the right like this, and you're going to put some tear tape on the back side in just a moment. I'm just trimming down this 1/2 inch strip so that it's underneath the panda and it's not going to touch the piece we're going to stick down there, and it will just stay loose for the moment. So put your tear tape on that center panel, stick that down, making sure that he's down to the right. And you also want to make sure that your tab is still loose. Then we're going to put a glue dot on that tab once we've stood our panda up, and we're going to stick it down like that so that when we fold him over, he goes down to the right and nice and flat. You'll see I'm very carefully for the first time tucking in that little piece on the hinge there. So he tucks down nice and flat when he's done, and he pops up as we open the card, and you can see that lovely 3D element there as well. So that is how we create the panda card. That's how we get that lovely depth to it, and you can see the side view there. Make sure you do tuck that in nicely, otherwise it'll just kind of get a kink all of its own. And then I finished my card off using a piece of the Desert Sand Neenah cardstock, another half of 8.5 by 11 piece, and I stuck that on like this card here, and you can see that I just made the mistake where the panda stuck out, but he does pop up nicely. And I used a waffle flower stamp, as I said in the beginning, that I'll link up in the blog post, stamped out with just some ombre just to do a nice sample. So thanks for joining us today, and be sure to check out our other videos, and we'll see you again soon. Happy stamping! Bye!